Hey folks, Mike here for Making Progress. 115, lecture number 115, does stress break you or strengthen you? There are two seemingly contradictory understandings about stress that are very, very common. The first one is that stress is harmful. Mental health folks, social workers, sociologists often link stress to negative outcomes. For example, lots of psychological, academic, work achievement, and social maladies are blamed on stressful environments, like growing up in a trailer park or the hood or the former Soviet Union or the third world, things like that. And the idea here is that stress is a negative input. It leads to degraded capacity of the system, of the human, and leads to worse outcomes. Folks on the political left are especially likely to espouse such a view. On the other hand, stress makes you stronger is a view that some people hold, very many people hold. Sport coaches, motivational speakers, positive psychologists, and military leaders often link stress to capability enhancement. It's the stress making you better. For example, lots of psychological, academic, work achievement, and social benefits are said to emanate from immersion in stressful environments like wrestling practice, lifting weights, boot camp, long hours of studying, challenging work environments with demanding mentors, and high standards generally. Tiger mom type of stuff. Korean school, basically. The idea is that stress is a negative input and is thus a stimulus for adaptation and growth, and you get better capabilities and thus eventually better outcomes. Folks on the political right are especially likely to espouse such a view, though not all left and right folks espouse these views exactly. So is like one of these totally wrong? Or is one more right than the other, even though both are sort of in part correct? Is it just situational and too complex to tabulate how this works? Or does it depend on the individual? Is it social support that's the difference maker? If you have a lot of social support, stress is good. If you have very little, stress is bad. Is it positive versus negative framing? If you think stress is good, it's good for you. If you think it's bad for you. Growth versus defeatist mindset, in other words. What's the difference maker here? The good news is that there is no contradiction in this subset of reality. Everything makes sense, I promise. All right, cool. That was awesome. Scott, good talk, right? All right, see you guys next time. JK. Don't leave. What's the deal here? How can these two seemingly mutually exclusive views both be correct? For the answer, we go to the scientific sport training volume landmarks. Dude, quote unquote, Dr. Mike, what the hell are you doing? You are totally falling off here. Life is not all about getting jacked, you dolt. And now, have you tried getting big arms? I'm kidding. For real. It turns out that nearly the same dynamics that govern your adaptation to or regression from physical training govern your responses to almost every single other life stressor, both physical and psychological. From as close to home as non-hypertrophy training, like endurance training, still same principles, to as far afield as literally the dynamics, and I mean this with all due care and respect, an abusive childhood. Let me explain. What we're talking about here is the adaptive window. In the adaptive window, a certain amount of stress makes you better. Too high or too low makes you worse. When things are too easy, your mind, your brain, and your body lose capacity in many cases. Use it or lose it. You've heard it before, and it's not wrong. On the other hand, when things are too hard, they're outside of that adaptive window. They are too hard to recover from. The cracks begin to show, they form faster, sometimes faster than they heal, and eventually the system takes irreparable, possibly temporary, sometimes semi-permanent damage. Too much stress. Too much, too fast. But generally, between those two extremes of too little stress and too much stress, many, I'd say most, of your mental and physical systems get better with stress exposure. So there is actually, to resolve the basic contradiction here, there are three zones. The right-wing drill sergeants are right. There is such a thing as too little stress. The left-wingers were right. There is such a thing as too much stress. I just accidentally give you guys a middle finger, sorry. And the positive psychologists were also right. There is such a thing as hermetic stress, stress that makes you better. Absolutely, there are all three. What we want is enough stress to cause adaptation, but not so much stress that overwhelms the system. Stress that is below maintenance volume for a given trait, could be size, could be mental acuity, could be confidence. Stress below those levels degrade ability. If you never challenge yourself at all, your confidence isn't going to improve much because you never work your confidence, because your confidence has to improve from getting tough challenges and surmounting them. But sometimes it doesn't degrade, you're just not good at stuff. Like people who don't lift weights aren't just walking around getting degraded all the time. They're just totally fine, but they're just not very strong. Stress levels between maintenance volume and what's called minimum effective volume, if it's below maintenance volume, typically you just lose whatever gains you had. So let's say you lifted for a while and then you stopped lifting. Below maintenance volume, you lose all your gains until you get back to a normal baseline of just how people walk around. If you're above the maintenance amount, but below the minimum effective to get you better, you maintain ability, but don't improve it. If you are above minimum effective volume for stress to make that system better, but below maximum recoverable volume, that's that adaptive window, stress levels will improve ability on average over time. If you're above your maximum recoverable volume of any given stressor, and I mean any single stressor, and a bunch of stressors combined, stress levels again degrade ability, not from under-stressing, but from over-stressing, sometimes catastrophically. There is also an effect of timing and breaks. Stress is cumulative. You accumulate stress and it falls off and gets recovered at a certain rate. If you accumulate it really, really fast, or a lot of it, then it gets too high really fast. And then eventually, you can't recover anymore and you're too much stressed and bad things happen. So even between MEV and MRV, in the adaptive window, stress levels can accumulate to more than MRV, more than maximum recoverable levels, if the stress is present consistently and zero or too few or too short or too not easy enough breaks are taken. Like a 40-hour work week doesn't crush you. An 8-hour day doesn't crush you. It's sustainable. But an 8-hour day is sustainable for most people if they get 2 weekends, and if they get multiple long weekends, and if they get a few big vacations through the year. If you do 8 hours of work every single day, many people will break. No one day really screws you up. It's just the straw that broke the camel's back. Flick. That's audio for the straw breaking camel's back, in case you were confused. I'm still confused. So you can have not enough breaks, so the breaks aren't long enough. Or your idea of a break is to do a 4-hour workday. Just enough to not accumulate any more stress, but not enough to actually reduce stress, either enough or at all. And you just go back to work for 8 hours the next day. Oh, you didn't get better. Sorry, you didn't get worse, but you didn't get better. It's like you have a crazy progressive cancer in your body. And then they give you a drug that just stops the cancer from progressing, but the cancer's still alive and well. Then you come off the drug. You're not back from day one. You're back from the worst day of your cancer before this, right as if nothing happened. But if breaks are taken often enough to reduce accumulated stress back down to zero or close, and the breaks are meaningful enough, and stress within your adaptive window is applied between those breaks, increased abilities are usually the result. So the way to get better at stuff is literally just to go hard for a while, ease up, drop the fatigue, go hard, ease up, drop the fatigue, go hard, ease up. That's it. There is also in this dynamic the effect of gradual progressive exposure to stress. Your mind and body can take a lot of stress and even benefit from it. But they're best at this if the stress is low at first, because they're not used to it. When they get used to it and their mechanisms for growing it blossom, then you can ramp the stress slowly and benefit more, and then slowly and benefit more. But if you shock the mind or the body with too much stress up front when you're unaccustomed to it, even stress levels you could have easily recovered from and grown from can cause trauma. Example, trying to bench press 225 pounds on your first day of lifting versus on your 700th. One of them will break you in many cases. The other one is just a routine. Or trying to run 10 miles just right up off the couch after no activity whatsoever. Or trying to run it after a year of gradual increases in distance, running 5 days a week. Or going through a firefight with real guns in real combat after you go through ranger selection, you're an Army Ranger, and you've done 100 combat missions so far. Versus picking up a terrorist's gun and shooting your way out of a hostage situation in a third world country when on vacation with zero military training. You just have basic weapons qualification because you've been to the range a few times and just balls of steel. One of those is almost certainly going to cause you PTSD. The other is like, a very large fraction of folks that are in special forces or special operations, I forgot the technical name for it, they don't have PTSD. As they signed up exactly for that, and they trained up to it. And after 100 combat missions, it just doesn't feel the same as far as I've been told. Obviously, it was all fifth hand or whatever. Why do stressful environments make some people blossom and some people wilt? Now we can answer this question. One is the amount of stress. If it's just a ton of stress, most people will wilt. Another one is the rapidity of onset. If you just get crazy into school and lifting and work all at the same time, your chance of burnout is way higher than if you ramp those in. The individual's genetic adaptive window, their minimum effective volume to their maximum recoverable, how low the minimum effective is, how high the maximum recoverable is, and thus the size of that window is a huge factor. If someone just adapts to everything and can recover from everything, they just become really good at stuff. Whereas if someone's most of the stressors are way too little for them to adapt to, then as soon as you ramp it reasonably high, they start overtraining because it's way too much, they're going to have a bad time. Some people genetically for some things, some people for all things just have really crappy stress adaptation and resilience. And that's a thing to consider. And it's a thing to consider from a humanistic perspective before you judge another person. Oh man, school's hard for that person? If you had their genetics, you would feel overwhelmed 24/7. Okay, now what? As an example, not to say that is the case with everyone, but it absolutely happens. Another one is prior training or stress exposure that modulates the MEV-MRV window. Imagine that you put two people through Marine Corps boot camp. One person is literally fresh, no combat experience. They just signed up for the Marines. It's something they told their family they were going to do. They weren't even passionate about it. They had no physical training. They just show up day one. Versus the military allows this just for YouTube video. Top tier Delta Force operative signs up for Marine Corps boot camp. Scott, could you imagine that behind the scenes? You just get a Delta guy and you shave him down and you're going to tell people you're a day one Marine.
Oh
you put him in a qualifying for weapons. Everyone just shits their pants. What the fuck? And everyone's super stressed and freezing and he's just smoking a cigarette. You're why aren't you weirded out by this? He's this ain't shit, right? So huge difference in what does the Delta Force guy have? I mean, obviously Delta's genetically elite people to begin with, but the big difference there, among others, is that the prior stress is the end of the world. Someone who comes in to lift on the first day of lifting is intimidated by the gym. Their muscles aren't used to it. They do a workout that crushes them. Some people who's been lifting for 20 years, they come to the gym and oh, you stressed out? They're it's not leg day, So totally different. Prior experience is a huge, huge thing. Another one is psychological framing, which can come from prior experience as well. And actually prior experience is the biggest factor in psychological framing. If you enter boot camp and you're I want to excel, I'm ready to get shit on, I want the pain. Fuck it if I fail. I tried my fucking best. You are going to have a better time. You are going to be more adaptable to stress. Still, shit could go wrong than if you go in there and you're like, I'm going to fail. This is too hard. There's no way I can succeed. Absolutely, psychological framing matters. But remember, if you've been successful before, you're going to be good to go. Better to go on average. No guarantees, but way better. Another one is physical and social support. If you have a difficult situation you are dealing with, you are physically uncomfortable, you don't have a good place to sleep, you don't feel safe, you don't have good food. If you don't have a supportive social circle, you're going through a hard time. Fucking recently, I've been through a few really hard times. If you have really good friends and family, even just to check up on you, it hits different than if you have no one. Social support is massive, and so is physical support. If you are a lifter, you want to go to the Olympics, and you train at a training center in which they feed you, it's comfortable beds, massages, saunas, hot tubs, and tons of support from the staff and your friends. The team has a great vibe. Everyone's training goes better and they adapt to crazy loads that would crush them otherwise. And if they were alone in a dingy apartment and lifted with a rusty barbell, they wouldn't do as well, legitimately. Physically, it would make a notable difference. Psychologically, it's not even close. A lot of times what keeps people in the military, from my understanding, through things is the camaraderie of their fellow man being like, hey, you got this. Let's fucking go. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the team. That's huge. And one thing they repeat constantly in the military, as far as I understand, is like, you are not here alone. If you solo this shit, we'll make you fail to learn the lesson that it's not about soloing the shit. Because out in the field in real war, team effort is such a huge advantage. And in many ways, for that resilience. The duration of unmitigated high stress is enormous. You are in a real bad situation for 2 weeks. Hey. 3 months. Hey. 3 years. Jeez. Depending on the stress, that might be a non-starter. Most athletes, especially if they've trained up to it, can do 1.5 times their normal training volume for a week. And as long as they take it easy the week after, you just get better at stuff. That week sucks. The first half of that week after, you're in a shambles, then you recover and you're the best you've ever been. Try training a week and a half. Try training at 1.5 times your normal training volume for 4 weeks. And let me say that wrong. Don't try that, because it could go very, very wrong for you. You can get overreached, you can get overtrained, and then it could take you months to recover, or you could never recover, depending on the circumstances. The duration is big. And here's one that is enormous, that isn't talked about maybe enough in this context. The totality of stressors from all vectors has to be considered. If you have a real tough time at school, tons of projects and stuff, it's not just school bringing in the stress. It's school and work and training and home life and relationships. If all of them are going bad at the same time, it's real unlikely, much less likely, that you're going to have a good time and be able to adapt to it successfully. But if your school is really intense, you take it easy at work, you take it easy at training, your home life is really supportive, your relationships are awesome, hey, you have a real good chance at making the thing happen. Much better chance. If any one dial goes extreme, the others have to drop, because your total system, both physical and mental, ability to handle stress is a thing, and it comes from all variables. How can folks use these ideas to their advantage? Even in theoretical terms, from a societal organization perspective, we can take a lot of insights here. One is to start from a baseline of low stress where you could chill forever if needed for all of your projects, for all of your endeavors, even in social settings. This means that from a societal organization perspective, crime reduction and basic social programs, so that people aren't starving and have no place to sleep, are critical for like the trailer park / hood, whatever, to massively improve outcomes. If you live in a high crime area and people are, lift yourself up by your bootstraps, like, All right. Have you ever lived in a fucking war zone? Have you ever been to Southside Chicago? You can't breathe out here, and that's real. And if you don't have a dependable, warm place to sleep and decent food and some medical care, it's real hard to go on the job hunt and shit. It's possible, but then only really resilient people that have all the other things going for them are the ones that are successful on average. And everyone else who needs more help is just like, wow, yeah, that person deserves homelessness. Like, fuck, do they though? Or are they just getting like 1/10 of the support that you're getting? And it's easy for you to say, like, wow, I made it. See, well, you had 2 parents at home and hot meals every night and a fucking tutor. And I'm supposed to be all Ayn Rand about this shit, but this is real. Acute trauma or chronically unsafe environments do not equal progressive overload. Step 1 is safety and stress removal. And then when the fatigue is down, people feel safe, comfortable, warm, enabled, supported. You gradually increase the stress in a few areas, keeping stress low in others. You monitor your preparedness, the fitness minus fatigue, how good you are at stuff, to make sure that if you get bad at stuff from higher stress, you instantly reduce the stress by a ton, recover, get really good at stuff, and then keep hammering it away so your fitness isn't degrading the entire time. Because your preparedness can degrade, but it should be because your fatigue is going up. If your fatigue goes high up enough, or long enough, your fitness starts to go down. Your underlying abilities start to go down. As soon as you detect that, you got to take that fatigue and go way, way, way down so that the fitness can climb back up and then even higher, and then you hit it again. Because a lot of times as you ramp stress in your adaptive window, your fitness and fatigue go up at the same time. Your fatigue starts to skyrocket, your fitness can plateau, delayed adaptation, no big deal. Your fatigue goes up even more, your fitness starts to degrade, that's when it's time. That's why if you use like the RP Hypertrophy app, if it detects that you're underperforming and it consistently detects that like you're actually getting weaker, if you seem to be getting weaker and you look your numbers back it up, it's probably time for a deload outside of special condition. Because how strong you are is a test of preparedness. And if your preparedness gets low enough, it's not just because the fatigue is too high anymore, which is bad by itself, it may be because your fitness is actually declining, which is real not good. When you get close to or just beyond your maximum recoverable volume, excessive fatigue, when you get close to or just beyond that edge, pull back hard on net stressors. Net stressors. That means if you're taking an easy week, a deload week from training, don't work overtime and do 50 projects. For the last fucking, Jesus Christ, 7 years of my life or something, 8 years, 10 years, I don't know, 5 years of my life realistically. Yeah, 4 years. Whenever I deloaded, I just multiplied my academic work and my work, like RP, digital products, all that other stuff. And that was really stupid and backwards because I didn't reduce as much stress as I needed and I would constantly pay for it. Net stressors have to go down a lot and for long enough to allow fatigue to drop off a ton. So if you're really messed up, you need a week. Scott, you know at the end of action movies when like all the dust is settling and the heroes won and one of them's like, I need a vacation. That's like a real thing. That's a real thing. Because sometimes vacation for a week or 2 is the only thing that's going to fucking zone you out. You want to get as much physical and social support as you can get at all times. Food, sleep, rest. And friends, teammates, family, mentors, community folks. Unless you have to cut your food on purpose for a diet or something like that, the more sleep and rest you can get at optimal levels, and the more social support, really that stuff is like, unless you're just finding people annoying, the more the better that is for you. One of the things I'm super excited about with AI, and especially humanoid at-home robotics, which is something we'll see a lot of probably in the late 2020s, is most people, and eventually every person, can have at least one robot who's there with them kind of whenever they want, 24/7-ish, and gives them that physical and social support that they need. Like hand jobs and stuff. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Am I? I'm not kidding. But on a serious note, imagine someone there who's super intelligent, super kind, super polite, makes sure that you have good sleep, makes your bed for you, makes sure that you have good food, cooks your meals, and is there in your ear whenever you need it to set a plan in motion and to support the living shit out of you. I believe in you. You can do this. I have calculated that this is possible for you to achieve. Because it's awesome if people do this to each other. But fortunately or not every human has enough people in their lives. And that's a thing that if machines are as good or better than people with social support, we're going to see a radical alteration in the social structure. Because everyone's going to be surrounded with more and more machines. Sentient machines. Socially supportive machines. Machines that are your friends. But if humans turn out to have a very big special advantage, because sometimes like some shit like, at least early days, like the metallic robot's not going to give you all the, TLC that you need. I don't mean physical TLC, that too, but like there's something there, like, it's got ChatGPT inside of it. Like, yeah, it's alive, but like in an esoteric way or whatever. You just don't buy it. A lot of people are going to be like that. And then people ask like, well, what are we going to do for work when all the robots are doing all the real jobs? Social support, hanging out with other people, being positive around other people, companionship. Scott, how many lonely people are there in the world that would kill for a few fucking people to hang out with?
Seems like a lot.
It seems like an infinity. That's a huge, huge deal. Another tip here, real world, is to view stress positively from a growth mindset, but realistically from my recovery capacity is finite perspective. So you want stress, but you also don't want to Icarus yourself. I've done that before. Icarus, the fucking guy that goes up in the clouds and tries to touch the sun and burns his wings and falls down to his death. It's cool. It's warrior-like. It's zen. It's all that shit to get crazy stress and burn. I love it. Half my life. But if it's too much of it, you just get worse at stuff. So yes, stress is growth mindset, but rest is also growth mindset. It's getting into that adaptive window. Decent amount of stress, a decent amount of rest keeps you there. And when you're looking at stress and adaptation through a social lens, try to think of it not of de-stressing people and communities or cultures or of stressing them like crazy to harden them up. Instead, think of two things. First, think of getting their stress in that adaptive window, above MEV, below MRV. Hard enough to cause adaptations, not so hard that it burns people out. That's what makes people better. And think of giving them as much support as possible to make that range as big as possible. Because when people have support, the minimum effective volume for what stress they can improve with improves, and the maximum recoverable improves. So all of a sudden, you can just ramp stress for longer and take higher stress levels and get even better because you have more social support. An example here directly from hypertrophy dynamics is if you eat more food, your anabolic signaling is more sensitive. So if you have more protein and more calories to a point, you do just a few sets of curls, you grow. Whereas if you didn't have enough protein and not enough calories, you would have to do more sets of curls to grow. So your MEV lowers, which is good. Your minimum effective volume lowers. And at the very same time, more food and more protein raises your maximum recoverable volume, which means that you can also do more. This is a perennial question that understandably confuses people in hypertrophy training is, if I'm eating more, or if I'm on steroids do the same thing, by the way, is it better for me to train less or train more? The answer is either, but the best answer is both. If you're eating a bunch of food, or you for the first time ever, you cleaned up your nutrition, you eat lots of protein, 5 good meals a day, plenty of calories, all healthy food, it's great, and you're getting more sleep, and let's say you're taking supplements or steroids or something, I think you really want to benefit the most out of them. Hopefully future drugs that aren't killing you at the same time. The best way to train is start your mesocycle, your training plan, at substantially less training than you normally do. Maybe 2/3 of the volume or something like that. Usually you start with 3 sets per exercise, start with 2. And then slowly ramp your volume up to an amount that's higher than normal, and until your body signals that you're not getting stronger anymore and you're all the symptoms of fatigue, and then it's time to bring it back down. So what that means is you get a total amount of time that you are exposing your body to the stressors that grow you is longer before you have to take a deload. And then you get better gains because your window is bigger. That's huge. The more support, the better. Now, this whole time we've been talking about a bit of positive framing for stress and how that helps, but boy, is that easier said than done. It's tough enough to frame things positively sometimes during normal times, but during high stress when negative framings can dominate, it can just take over your brain altogether. But mindset is a big deal, and you do have a choice. To make that choice the better one, more often than not, you'll need all of the stability that your mind can get. And the way you can build that stability, among others, is to use the Waking Up app by progressively training your mindfulness. And that massively improves your ability to have that positive mindset exactly during the stressful times when you're going to need it. And the Waking Up app is a huge way to do that. Link in the description. Hopefully this helps. I'll see you guys next time.